No charm, no wit. Big sword, but no skills.
I've got skills.
Welcome to episode 61 of Vice of Life. It's a quick little bit right there. Usually we have these protracted songs or whatever else at the beginning of this, but
but I couldn't think of anything better.
I play that in my mind quite often, that awkward line delivery. I've got skills, but welcome to Vice of Life, the show where we talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake. I was about to say 14 because I spent a lot of time playing that, but that's not what we're talking about. So typically Eloy and I, Eloy's on the other end. Josh isn't here today. He couldn't make it. I think he's out camping somewhere. I'm not exactly sure what he's doing. But
I believe so.
So it's just Eloy and I, and Eloy and I have been doing these video game bonus episodes over on Patreon. We released a bonus episode on the main feed a while ago about a game called Twin Breaker because we got special early access codes to it, and we reviewed it, and that was basically our first run at it. And I think it went well, but we've been doing, since then, we've done Doom Eternal back on the actual Patreon. But this week, things just so happened that we were going to record this episode anyways for the Patreon. And then Josh couldn't record. We have something else lined up for Josh, so we'll do that next week. But we figure this is an episode, this game specifically, it's a remake. The original was something Eloy and I both grew up on. I think it's kind of what our friendship was based around a lot of the time. Maybe not based around, that's not the right word, but
I don't know, that's a big part of it. This and 10. I just remember coming to your house and watching you play them.
Exactly. So Eloy and I have a storied history with this, and I feel like that is kind of gives it meaning to have it on the main feed as well. But beyond that, we hope that it'll entice you to go to Patreon if it's within your means and within your desires to do so. But this is the kind of content that Eloy and I do roughly every month or so is what we've been doing. But so, anyways, that's a long spill about Patreon and shit. So head on over to patreon.com/Vice of Life if you're interested in that. So we were talking a little bit before the episode started about whether or not to do the weekly catch-up here. You said you didn't have a lot to talk about.
I don't, unless you do.
No, I mean, honestly, most of what I did yesterday with my day off, I went back to work for most of the days, but yesterday I spent most of the day playing Final Fantasy IV, or I did it again, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and felt like trash about it because it was just many hours of just sitting there. My legs hurt at the end of the day because I hadn't moved, so I was just a real piece of shit yesterday. But anyways,
I don't blame you. That's how I spent most of my time this game.
So yeah, when did you beat this? I have a list here of questions that I think hit the main thrust of all the aspects of the game, and I'm hoping that as I ask you these questions, it'll spark conversation, and we'll go where the conversation takes us. But I have questions based on the story, the gameplay, the design and visuals, and the trophies. Lastly, that will be really fast. But
Alrighty.
So I guess we can just get into it. So rather than going step by step through the story of Final Fantasy VII, I feel like that game came out in 1994, 5, 6, around there. And so it's a pretty old game. Those of you who have played it, you've played it. Those of you who haven't. And what Final Fantasy VII Remake is basically the first third of that game, all baked into one major game, built in 2020 with updated, went from like really boxy looking characters in the 1990s to really high graphics, like graphic fidelity in 2020. So, but basically what I was saying is that rather than going step by step through the story, I feel like anybody who's listening and interested in this should have already played it, because my general overall thoughts about Remake is that I don't know how good of a game it is for somebody who hasn't played the original. It's really hard for me to separate my nostalgia from the game itself. So, I mean, overall, I think this game is great. I think it's fantastic. It's definitely blown me out of the water. I was expecting a lot more of a piece of shit than it is, because it's not a piece of shit. So anyways, but what are your overall thoughts about it? So,
I love this game. I really do. Fun fact, I don't know if I ever told, but I played and beat the original Final Fantasy VII like a month, 2 months before this. I've never beaten it before. I've only ever played maybe halfway through.
I thought that was the one you had beaten before.
I don't know. I don't remember what I've said over the years. I wanted to be included in all your conversations, so I'm like, yeah, I totally beat that one.
Yeah, I've been there before too, but
yeah, I really enjoy this, and I think I expected to be disappointed, but I was not.
Yeah, this game is a long time coming. I remember, I think when they announced it. Oh, lots of noises in the background. When they first announced it, I think it was in 2015, 2016. I'm not exactly sure. But it's really distracting.
Can you hear it that much?
Yeah. It was announced in 2015, 2016. And I remember originally calling you about it because I was really excited about it. I was like, wow, they're actually going to remake one of my favorite video games ever. This is a game that has a lot of meaning to me. I'm really pumped for it. And,
remember, we were sitting there watching E3 and you gave me a call, and I think your stream was ahead of mine. So I'm like, I don't know what you're freaking out about.
I don't. Actually, I vaguely remember that, yeah. Actually, no, the delay in that. But anyways, it had gone through so many different. There were so many stories about how it was in development hell. It switched developers at one point from an out of what would you call out of house developer to in house. And then one of the directors of the game, or the director of the game, was like, I didn't even know I was supposed to be doing this until I saw in a meeting that I was doing it.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of like warning signs at the beginning before this came out.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Anyways, I grew up with this. My brothers were really big into Final Fantasy, and I wanted to fit in with them. And so what I did was play this game, and it's how I spent a lot of my summer in growing up. When we were out of school, I'd play a lot of these Final Fantasy games. And I'm not one of these people that played the original like 7 or 8 times. Played maybe 2 or 3 times, but it still has a special place in my heart. I've played a lot of the spin-offs. But anyways, so we just have a storied history with it, Eloy and I. And so I guess let's just jump right into it. The story here I have broken up into 3 different parts, so to speak. The game is separated into chapters. There's 18 chapters throughout it, and so I have chapters 1 through 7 as the first half, or the first third, 8 through 11 as the middle, and then 12 through 18 as the last bit. So the first bit is basically a mercenary named Cloud joins up with a group called, an eco-terrorist group called Avalanche, and you basically join with them immediately in the beginning of the game. You jump right into it, right into the action. So my first question is how do you feel about Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge playing a larger role? they were quite minimal characters in the original, I feel like, and there was not a lot of character development. But through this first little bit of the game, you learn a lot about them. So, how do you feel about that? I mean, do you feel like it was necessary? This long, like, romance thing with Jessie. She's like, oh, she has a big heart on for Cloud. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
I loved it. I liked all of them, and I didn't necessarily think going into it like I need these three to have a bigger role. I need everything to be so expanded. But I think even in this segment or in this section of the chapters, you even get a whole mission or a whole chapter dedicated to just going around with them, kind of pushing all the characters aside. And I thought that was just a real good time. Jessie's adorable.
Adorable. Are you a Jessie? It's no longer Tifa versus Aerith. It's a Tifa versus Aerith versus Jessie thing now, huh?
Yeah, dude, we have
Team
the
Jessie?
Holy Trinity now.
Yeah, you're on Team Jessie.
No, I don't know about that, but she put up a strong case.
Yeah. I enjoy that they put more development into these characters, because it did feel a little weird in the original to have these three designed characters that you're only spending a little bit of time with, and like Jessie gets her leg stuck in a under rubble or something in both of these games, and in Remake it seems a lot more. It pays off more. In the original, it's like, oh, you save her, then it's like, oh, here's a materia, thanks.
Yeah.
It's like, so there's a lot more payoffs and build up with these characters, which is nice. But I do think there's a bad part that we'll get to later on, where this is a common thread with Square Enix, who made the game, by the way. They have a hard time killing characters, and I think that's a problem. I don't like that Jessie, Biggs, and Wedge, at least, spoilers, are still alive at the end of the game. And I don't care for that, per se, but we'll get into that later. But my second question kind of has to do with it. You didn't mind the horniness? I mean, the very first part of this game is very horny. It's Jessie is, like I said, very into Cloud. Tifa is excited to see him again, but there's also a lot of sexually tensious places in the story with Tifa. I think even Wedge, he's not like as open about it, but he's pretty obsessed with Cloud too, I think. I was a little bit worried. It kind of dies down towards the end, but at first it was a little bit worrying. Honestly, I thought, oh, this is a sign that it's just going to be a what do you call that? A fan fiction. I was really worried about that at first, but you weren't disturbed by it at all.
Not really. I get that Jessie was very almost all the time just coming after Cloud, and Wedge, I just got that he really wanted to be friends with him.
Yeah. They also really lean into like how fat he is, which I think is kind of funny, but
yeah. The only part that felt a little off is I think there's a moment where Jessie like invites you to her house at one point, and I was like, I don't know, this is weird.
Yeah,
that one seemed a little sudden, but
I think she like explicitly says, well, she doesn't explicitly say, but she very openly hints towards like, come over for a one night stand. It is.
Yeah, it's like, hey, my roommates won't be home tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. I'll make us a pizza.
And the way they say like, I'll make you a pizza, and you owe me a pizza. I owe you a pizza. I'm like, this pizza's something else.
Oh Jesus. Yeah. Yeah, the pizza references are really crazy in this game. They call Midgar is, for those of you who don't know, Midgar is like a big city. It's built on there's like the top plate that's like all metal, and it's built above this ground floor, which is all slum area and stuff. And even they call like the plate above, like that's the pizza in the sky. And there's there's the Midgar special, which is a type of pizza. Then like you're saying, you owe me a pizza. And it's like, there's
I think the real horniness in this game comes from pizza.
Yeah, fuck, dude.
The developers were horny for pizza.
They're all pop punk kids over there in Japan. Fucking losers. There's a lot of like neon signs too that are like pizza, and like there's throughout the game there's like little music discs you can collect or whatever. And one of the first ones you find is like Hip Hop to Chocobo, and it's a terrible song, but beyond that, it's like all these guys like dressed like I don't know, like early 2000s breakdancers, and they're in front of like a pizza parlor that just says pizza in bright letters. That was pretty funny too. I was just like, this is so stereotypical of like dumb like early 2000s hip hop. But anyways, the next question I have is actually pretty. I don't know where this will go, but how do you feel about Sephiroth's very early appearance? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? He makes an appearance in Chapter 2, very early on.
I think this is really where, like, to lend to your point that if you're kind of losing out on a little bit if you haven't played the original.
Yeah.
Because you do see Sephiroth really early. I believe it's in the first few chapters. And if I didn't know, I'd be like, who the hell is this? They don't mention his name once before this, I believe.
No.
And then even then, you don't have any sort of exposition to give you any idea.
Yeah.
It was fine. I felt like the first appearance was unnecessary. Didn't really get anything out of it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm of two minds about this whole thing with this whole Sephiroth arc in the very first part of this game. And again, this game we're talking about is only a third-ish of the whole game that it's remaking. And you don't really learn about Sephiroth, who's the main antagonist, until the end of or of the first third of that is this whole game. So really, you should only, if you were going off of the original game entirely, you wouldn't learn about Sephiroth until maybe Chapter 17 or 18. But yeah. I think what the developers were trying to do is give a game that was a remake and a faithful reimagining to the original, while at the same time giving a compact game. And I think this is their way of giving you a full game without just leaving it on a total cliffhanger. It kind of happens at the end where I'll talk more about this, but I think his early appearances are just for this game, specifically for those who haven't played the original.
Yeah, with this being, it's kind of like its own story. Like, we know there's going to be more to come, but if this was it, you'd kind of be fulfilled. But we'll get there. So, I mean, you really do. It's necessary to have him show up earlier.
Yeah. So I don't know. And as you're saying, I don't think they even mention his name. And all it really shows you is that him and Cloud have a history. And so I don't know. I'm not sure how to feel about it, honestly, but I don't know. That's a lot of the things that could go, I think, are bad about this game or could be bad about this game. I feel that way about. I can make an excuse for, which is
I feel like trying to detach our nostalgia and knowledge of the original is what really hampers us here, because this game, so many people that are probably playing this game never played the original.
Yeah.
That's why all this stuff is in there that we are like, sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up quick sales data here. FFA remake sales. They're not
Like finding
me
like a
here.
hard number.
Yeah, I'm just curious if this sold more than the original on launch. It's saying it's short of 15. I don't know why I'm stumbling with my words, but 3.5 million. So not shabby. Original sales. Could have looked this up, but I'm doing it live.
Wonder if it's gonna account for just launch, or if you're gonna find some adjusted one. Or...
The original had about 10 million.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's fair, especially given the times.
I think there's a lot more budgeting, marketing that went into the original too. So that's why it was
the original one was pretty much just a reinvention of the genre and really defining what it kind of is today. So it was really big. It was important back then. Today it's like it has its own audience, but it's not going to pull in everybody.
Yeah, I honestly am surprised by that because I always assumed that Final Fantasy has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and 3.5 million is not, like you said, not too shabby, but I would have expected more than that, but I don't know. I'm bad at projecting that kind of thing as what's good and what's bad for sales, so that's not my department. But my next question here for the first bit here of remake is, do you think Roche, whatever the fuck his name is, aka Speed Demon, is a necessary addition? I think this, in my opinion, is one of the worst things they did with this remake. It's this crazy soldier guy, this elite class of military guy that's like really big into riding motorcycles, and he's crazy, and they make it out to be like he's going to be a big antagonist. And I could have seen them making him the main antagonist for most of the game, and then at the end you kill him or something, and then Sephiroth comes into picture, and you're like, oh, wow, so there's where the next game is going. But instead, it's just during this one chapter, basically, you meet this soldier, and it's a very small arc, and I feel like it was not necessary whatsoever. And but I don't know. What did you think about Roche and the mini bike game or whatever with him?
I kind of anticipated the same thing. I thought he'd be like the rival character throughout this game, and then you'd just get hints at Sephiroth. I like that he was sort of a parallel to Cloud's very calm demeanor, but he was so over the top, to a detrimental extent, and his boss fight is one of the weaker ones in the game for me.
Yeah, his boss fight is really dumb too. Like you get surrounded.
You fight him in 2 chapters. There's one during the mini bike game or the motorbike game. Another just like duel later on. And I had more fun on the motorbike one personally.
Yeah, I did too, and that's that's funny. I hated the duel part of it because it was so like you get surrounded. It's a very anime moment where it's like you're surrounded and you're like, oh shit, how are we gonna get out of this? And then one guy walks up and he's like, 1v1 me, bro. And then you beat him, and then they're just all like, all right, see you later, kind of thing. That's not exactly what happens in this game, but anytime that happens where it's like, we're going to 1v1, and everybody else is just like, yeah, okay, cool. We have our orders to take you in and seize you, but, yo, this soldier guy, he's just like, no, it's fine. It's all right.
Yeah, I understand, like, if he showed up and all the soldiers were just thinking, oh, this guy will take him, no problem. But I think even after you beat him, they're kind of just like, okay, let's go.
Yeah. So I didn't care for Roche as a character or anything. I think in a lot of these games that came after the original game, whether it be Crisis Core or Dirge of Cerberus or before Crisis or any of these, I think each of them introduce a certain soldier character, and it's just kind of like they're trying to give more life to the organization that is Soldier. And I don't know. I guess that's good. I guess he builds out like, that whole thing.
That's exactly how I'm seeing this too. Fucking dog. Basically, yeah, I see it the same way. That in the original, they felt very bleak, and there were not very many of them, so it makes sense to flesh them out a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, the only like soldiers you learn about in the original game are you and Sephiroth, and then the rest you just fight in battles, and they all are very bitchy, very easy to kill.
Yeah. If they gave him a bit more and been like, oh yeah, the soldier stuff drove him insane or something, and that explains his behavior, but no, he was just way too eccentric, and then he just, I don't remember if you kill him or if he just disappears. I feel like he just disappears.
Yeah. I don't know.
Which makes me worried that he's going to come back in other games.
Yeah, and I feel like he doesn't need to, you know. After you beat him, yeah, he just like rides off into the sunset. And then the other Avalanche part like comes in, or like, we're here fighting, man. I guess that's the next question, actually, I could ask. How do you feel about Avalanche being expanded in this to more of an organization, like a widespread organization, rather than just a group of 5, you know? And I think that might have actually been hinted at in the original. I'm not positive. I'm not a connoisseur of that, but that seemed new to me.
If it was very subtle and kind of easy to miss. I don't recall it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a spin-off. I kind of looked some stuff up. I think there's a spin-off that mentions there's like other sects of
cells, Avalanche. I think is what they call it. Yeah.
Cells. There we go. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, but I feel like it kind of takes away from just this ragtag group of friends, allies, companions, whatever, just deciding to take it on. I feel like they kind of just jumped on the Avalanche bandwagon as opposed to building it from the ground.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I actually liked that because it made no real sense to me that Avalanche, they'd give themselves this name Avalanche in the original if it was just a group of like 5 people. But, yeah. I mean, that actually makes more sense, yeah. It does detract from the close ties between them, I suppose. It does make them seem like they added on to something, but I don't know. I was thinking about it more in like a real world kind of application, which is you're not really ever seeing like a rebellion break up in occur in a country of just 5 people, you know. It's always like this underground network of things, and so I like, oh, that's a modern take to it, but yeah, maybe, and I mean, for a role-playing game, it might actually be better for it to be like, we're only 5 people and we're standing up to the big power. It's, you know, it's a little guy against the big guy, but it just seemed like 2 big guys going against each other, you know. And this is one little slice of that.
It doesn't detract anything from it for me. Just one take, I guess.
Yeah. So my next question is, are you a fan of the slight recon that Shinra are the ones responsible for all of the major devastation from the Mako reactor explosions? In the original, it's like, oh wow, that's a huge explosion, and they all are like, wow, okay, yeah, that was us. And in remake, though, it's like, oh, ours was just going to be a little explosion, enough to do damage, but it wasn't going to do enough damage to hurt any of the people living by the reactor. Whereas in remake, it's like Shinra comes in and they're like, oh, we'll make the explosion bigger and make all the residents think it was Avalanche, but it was really us. Ha ha ha. So,
Yes, it definitely fits Shinra's MO. But I wish I guess it didn't necessarily have to have a payoff, but Jessie, who is like the demolitions expert, spends so much of her time obsessing over how she did all this damage and everything. So I thought it would come back later, and even if it wasn't Jessie that found out, someone would find out, but you never do.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like that was kind of Square Enix not really willing to take risks. Avalanche themselves think they did it, and they're like, oh, they feel terrible about it. But I mean, they could have really done it. Instead, they're just like, it's more of a black and white in this game,
Yeah.
where Shinra's just a bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I wish they wouldn't have done that myself. I feel like the only reason they did it was maybe for, like what you're saying with Jessie's being the demolition expert, and a lot of her struggle in the game is, how did this happen? Why did this blow up? But then it's never really answered. She never finds out. She just dies. And it's like, all right. Well, so she dies thinking that it was all her fault that it happened. And but everybody else, I don't know. It's weird to me, because I think that retcon doesn't have a lot of effect on the main story still. Like
Oh yeah, no, not at all.
so I don't know why you changed it. It like you're saying, it just takes the punch out of it. Like, we're kind of fighting on the side of an eco-terrorist group, but then you find out, well, they actually weren't trying to do as much damage as happened. It's really Shinra's fault, and these guys aren't that bad after all. And I don't know. It does take away that gray area that is exciting to explore, for sure.
It is because I enjoy Jessie's character in this. I think when she does go out, she even says something along the lines of like, it's okay, I did this, kind of like I deserve it kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Which really, I guess, kind of gives you some more punch, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Still could have had that if Avalanche were the ones that caused the devastation in the first place, though. So
Yeah.
I don't know, not a fan in summation.
Yeah. Again, it's one of these things where I'm not like furious about it, but I can write it. I can understand why they might have done it, and I think some of that might be me trying to make excuses because I like the game overall, but
Yeah.
I don't know. That's basically the main like differences that I noticed from the first third of the game. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up? Up until Aerith, that's what these first 7 chapters are, is when you blow up Reactor 5 and fall to the church slum.
Oh, that's
Church.
crazy. It's that many chapters. No, not particularly. Really, they're just fleshing out everything from the original a bit more in these chapters.
Yeah.
You just get to know the side characters a lot more, and
Yeah.
no.
All right. As a quick note, there's a side quest where you go find a little girl's missing cats, and she's the best. Her name is Betty. Make sure to do that if you play it.
Yeah.
I love that. She's the best. But anyway, so the middle part of this game is after you blow up one of the reactors and you fall through the from the top plate to the bottom into a pile of flowers in a church, and you meet Aerith. And that's this part. How did you feel about the church section as a whole? The fight with Reno, the addition of these whispers you come to learn being the real reason that they can't grab Aerith. What are your general thoughts on that whole section? Because I think that's a pretty iconic section of the game.
We'll start with Reno. I'll just throw it all out here. I don't necessarily think in the original game the Turks were joke characters, but they were kind of they show up when they show up. But I loved fighting all the Turks in this game.
But you feel like they were like kind of jokey, like humorous characters?
Not in this one, no. I felt they pushed a little more towards that side in the original, yeah.
Really? I mean, I guess.
They weren't completely joke characters, but there were moments where...
There were humorous interactions between Reno and Rude.
You'd show up and they act all tough and everything, and they kind of just show up when they show up, and you're like, whatever. But then, there are those times where you just come upon them on the road, and they're like, oh, yeah, I have a crush on Tifa, and this person likes this person.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Speaking of, like, crushes on Tifa, that's, like, part of the horniness thing, is that, like, all the NPCs and just, like, townspeople are like,
yeah,
dude, Tifa, baby, how you doing? It's so weird. But anyways, I think the church area, I kind of cut you off, actually, but, yeah, the Reno fight, he's a piece of shit, though. I don't like fighting him. Any time in the game, this should really be in gameplay, but any of the gameplay mechanics where you're stunned, I think are trash, and I don't like it. But especially on a one-on-one.
We'll get to it.
But so after that, you run away. You beat him. You run away, and all that shit. In the original, when you guys are escaping from the Turks and Shinra, like you have to do a little mini game of like, all right, push this barrel here to hit the soldiers below, and you have to like. You have to look at the screen and see which barrel is going to fall where and how it's going to affect the distance between Aerith and the guards or whatever. In this game, it's just like the whispers are doing it all, and I don't know. Maybe the whispers part discussion should be at the end, but I don't know. I think they had to find a way to make things make more sense that they could get away with in 1990, where it's like, oh, it's a game. And nowadays, if it's like if Aerith is just cowering in a corner and the guard is like slowly like walking around her, it doesn't make quite as much sense. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I didn't care for that. Whenever the whispers showed up, I just kind of was like, like, why is this here? But other than the whispers, I think the whole church section was actually really, really good.
Yeah, I didn't mind it, and then even like the little bit of platforming, whatever you want to call it, you have to do, didn't get on my nerves. That felt like a weird addition to it in general, but when you're like going from the rooftop to rooftop, actually, I know that's like a really cute thing. The people that are on Team Aerith are like, oh, this is where their relationship starts, because they're having a little back and forth as they, cross the rooftops. But I liked it, and I think there's a really good Easter egg in there where, or a callback to the original, where you run up ahead a little bit ahead of Aerith, and she's like, "Hey, slow down! Like, don't go so fast." And then they're talking about how she should be a soldier candidate, and there's a lot of cute little Easter eggs to the original that I remember. So that's why I like the church section, is I think it's a very, maybe above everything else, I think is probably the most faithful recreation
of the original game.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, you follow Aerith all the way back to her house or whatever, and how did you feel about the addition of the orphanage, the Leaf House, as a storytelling device? It's basically like, in my opinion, I think they only introduced so much interaction with children in this game because of Advent Children, the movie, where it's like they're all running an orphanage, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that whole part was just to be like, all right, we're going to kind of wrap that in, make more sense of it, you know? But
Yeah. It didn't bug me necessarily. I didn't feel too much for any of the kids or the teachers that you speak to.
yeah.
And then you could do side quests for them and stuff, but those are all completely optional. I did them all. They weren't anything special, but
Yeah, they weren't. Yeah, I don't know. I'm of two minds about it. The whole kids section, I mean, it just felt so stupid, man. You gotta go save the kids, and then when you save the kids, they're like, I want to be a soldier like you. And maybe it's a callback. Again, I'm making excuses. Maybe it's a callback to Cloud and Tifa being kids, and him wanting to be a soldier, and him saying all the kids wanted to be a soldier when they were growing up, when they were talking about the war with Wutai. And so,
yeah.
I don't know. I think there is probably story relevance to be introducing like the orphanage and the kids and stuff. But I don't know. I don't give a fuck about these orphan kids. Okay, I'm gonna say it. I don't. In any game, It's like we gotta go help the orphans. Like I don't give a fuck. All right. But anyways, also the little introduction. It's like, oh, Biggs and Jesse are also helping kids in their free time. They're blowing up reactors, helping save the planet, and they're also good helping out orphans. I kind of felt like that was shoehorned in a little bit, but
Yeah, I didn't mind that. I didn't catch anything about Jesse. Maybe I just missed it, but I heard one of the teachers say something about Biggs.
yeah,
I'm like, oh, that's cool. But in the back of my head, I'm like, when does he find the time to do this?
exactly.
Travel across like a few sectors and then hang out with the kids. I think I said he was like
He's
a
like,
pseudo teacher, and I'm like,
yeah, I don't,
okay.
he seemed like the pseudo like brain idea behind. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if he was a teacher or what, but they basically only reference Jesse, and like if you walk by it, you know how you can hear people talking as you walk by them. They'll be like, I want to be doing this like Jesse. It's like a quick little thing, but
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
and then you know how Jesse was talking about like it's my fault that the reactors blew up big. Biggs mentions that in his quote unquote death sequence of like there's an orphanage. Take care of the orphans for me, Cloud. You're a good man. It's like
Yeah.
all right, man, whatever. But
It's like, dude, I already did. I did 8 side quests for them. What do you want?
exactly. It's like they're good for a while. Jesus. What are your thoughts on Elmira? Elmira is Aerith's mom.
She seemed just more hesitant, more standoffish, more protective of Aerith, really, in this game than she was in the original, which I get. But I don't know. She was kind of a nothing character to me.
Really, I actually find Elmira a fascinating character because in the original, it's been longer since I've played. I think I played through Midgar actually a couple years ago, and then I stopped. But I think Elmira is one of these overlooked characters in some ways, where I think her recreation is actually quite well done, and I think she's maybe the bitchiness and the motherly instinct comes off a little bit more in the remake, but I think she's an overlooked character, and I think one of the major changes that they make with her is in the original, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of like, we got to go save Aerith, and she's like, all right. But in this one, you have to kind of coax her into it. And I think that's interesting. That kind of gives her some development where she's like, I just want my she's kind of in denial as to what's going to happen to Aerith, and she's kind of putting on blinders and being like, they'll bring her back, they'll bring her back, they'll bring her back, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think she's a good character, but
Yeah, like she's nothing to write home about for me, but I don't have an issue with her. I get her viewpoint of if you go try and help Aerith, it'll probably make things worse. But I mean, at the same time, it's kind of just ignorant of her to think, yeah, they're probably treating her really well because they really need her.
yeah, I mean, I think what I enjoy about her is that she has like her above anybody else in like the slums. She brings life. Because you keep hearing about this war with Wutai, like it's a very background kind of thing in both the original and in the remake. And I think her story, what I like most about her is that her story brings that forward and gives more of like a slice of life of what life is like in the slums. And I think she's a really good poster woman for that kind of thing. And I think that's really interesting because, you know, her husband died, and she was waiting for him at the train station for so long, and she was always in denial about that. And eventually she meets Aerith, and then she's in denial when Aerith is going away. And I think she's overlooked. I think there's actually quite a lot of power to Elmira as a character. But
That's fair.
Yeah. So after that, probably the most iconic part of Midgar is Sector 6, or Wall Market, as it's otherwise called. And I didn't know how to ask this question, other than Sector 6 slums, Don Corneo, the trio, the Colosseum, too much at once. The addition of the Colosseum alone, I feel like, is like, ugh. But I didn't mind the gameplay of the Colosseum, but like the whole introduction with the trio and the Colosseum, I don't know. I kind of need your help as to how to talk about this, because there's so much I want to say, but I don't know where to even begin with Wall Market.
I think this is definitely, the main push of Wall Market is that I think it all happens in one chapter.
Yeah.
And then you can revisit it later, but this is definitely the most dense chapter with like content, I would say.
Yeah.
And then, because I mean, you could go and you could do your squat challenges, and you go on a side quest with this guy. I think his name's like Johnny or something.
Yep. Yeah. There's so much here. That's why I'm like lost to how to talk about it.
Yeah, and then there's basically your Tifa has been taken to this mansion of a man named Don Corneo, and everybody's like, "Oh, you got to watch out for that." So Cloud and Aerith go to save her, but they can't get in unless they get a recommendation from one of three people in the trio.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of running around in trying to get that recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there was a decent bit of filler in this chapter. Because, I mean, you kind of you can do stuff for one of the trio members, and then he's like, I'm not going to give you the recommendations. So you have to go try and find out about this other person. That doesn't go anywhere. And then you eventually fall on this woman. I don't remember her name. It's like Madam or Lady M or something like that.
Madam M, yeah.
Madam M. And at first she refuses you, so you go and do other stuff, and then you come back. She's like, yeah, sure.
she wants you to win her money in the Colosseum. And so you got to go
quick,
fight.
Before we fully proceed, there's.
Oh.
Did you pay? She runs a massage parlor, a hand massage parlor.
Yeah, a hand massage parlor.
Did you partake in this?
Well, we'll get into it. I've seen all three of those outcomes. Yes, I have. I'm assuming you paid for the expensive one.
I did. I had to really get the full experience.
That was my first one as well. It was, again, man, this game is very horny and very sexually tensious. Oh my god. I just am imagining what it's like to be a voice actor in that situation where you're being asked to be like, it's a lot of those groans, and like, you like that, don't you? Like, it's real weird.
That scene, I was laughing so hard, but I was very uncomfortable all at once.
Yeah, very uncomfortable. Yeah, the other two outcomes actually aren't that wild. Like, the standard one is like, alright, we're gonna do 4 fingers at a time, just tense up, like, it'll be over quick, and then she does it, and then she's like, alright, now flex your muscles, they're like a lot more limber, and, you know, he's like, that's right, they are, and it's just very standard practice, where it's like, you go to a regular massage parlor, and it's like, yeah, I feel a little bit better, and then you move on. If you pay for the cheap one, it's like, you cheap motherfucker, I'm gonna do the worst thing to you, and he's like screaming in agony, and he's like,
Oh, Jesus.
But,
I feel like even better than when you pay for the most expensive one. I don't know if this happens with either of the other two, but the scene itself is funny, but the aftermath, you play as Aerith for a minute, and Cloud's just kind of off in the corner. Like, I don't know if he's ashamed.
It depends again on what you do, yeah.
Yeah, in a sense of euphoria. He's kind of just like, not really saying much. He's like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, he's like, he's in another world, yeah. I don't know. The whole edition, the reason that Madame M is even a thing, and Sam, and the only reason they're a thing is because they felt like they needed to rewrite, apparently, this section of the original, in which you're basically just going around finding like dresses and earrings and like wigs to dress up, to do like cross-dressing. And they rewrote like this whole section so that you had to go on this goose chase of being like, you need an endorsement from one of these 3 people, and you need to get a hand massage, and you need to dance in this fucking Broadway performance, even though you've never danced a single day in your life, and then you have to be lectured on that stereotypes of beauty don't depend on gender, and it's just like, that's great, but it's so pandery, and it's like, it just seems so weird, man. This whole section, I didn't hate it. I think a lot of like the side stories is where this part of the game shines, where you're following Johnny and you're going to the parts of the original game where you're going to the pharmacy, you're going to the hotel, you're going to the restaurant, you're going to the dress shop. I found that side quest to be quite good.
Yeah, that was my favorite side quest in the... Is that? I mean, I guess it technically is a side quest, huh?
Yeah.
Because they kind of like urge you to do it while Aerith is doing her stuff. But yeah, it felt more like a main quest than a side quest to me, which is good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fetch questing still. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but
it had more substance to it, more humor, more character moments. Like Johnny as a character is made to be like this. He's a bro guy.
Yeah.
Which the first time you see him, you're like, oh god, I get this character off the screen. But this side quest is so much fun.
Yeah. You can also do 2 different ones. It's possible that you won't even actually get that quest, by the way. Yeah. It depends on, there's side quests for Madame M and side quests for Sam, but anyways, I don't know, like the whole Honeybee Inn, while faithful to at least in style and resonance, is still very is still reminiscent of the original. I don't know, man. It's just, why do we need the trio? I'm very weird. I don't know. I'm of 2 minds about it. again.
Go ahead.
I get that they wanted to remake it. Obviously, they don't want you to just do the same things again. And it was cool that the side quest was there to have you kind of do that. But I don't know. Like the addition to the Colosseum felt very weird because that's not actually supposed to be there until the gold saucer. But now it's here, and I don't know. I
didn't mind so much the Coliseum, but yeah, my first thought was like, okay, but are they still going to do this when we go to the Gold Saucer? I think the way that would have improved the trio is if it took approach similar to the original, where you go around and you do get dress-up items from these random characters. If the trio instead had some things to give you, like if you went to Madam M and got the dress, if you went to Sam and got a wig or something, but instead, yeah, they're just kind of there to really flesh out Wall Market, but they don't do it in the best way.
Yeah, they just seem like busy work. And my main question is why are the trio offering up women to Don Corneo, who is everybody knows is a sick fuck, you know? And it's like, why are these people just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna offer these? Like I'm trying to think, like, why is that happening? Maybe Madam M would do it, maybe Sam.
I don't know. Sam seemed like Sam was doing it, but he seemed, because Aerith speaks to him like, hey, I need a recommendation. He's like, are you really sure about that?
Yeah, and there's like a disconnect there. And even Leslie, he's working for him. You learn more about Leslie later, but it's like all these people are like, nah, you don't want to go through with this, but they're like, oh yeah, here you go anyway. Like it just makes no sense to me. But Andrea Rodea especially, like, I don't get the vibe that he should have ever been like offering up these women to Don Corneo. Like that doesn't seem like
Don Corneo's like the power in Wall Market, but the way they built Andrea up and like the business he runs and everything, I feel like they really should have gone for, I mean, this is just me daydreaming. It would have been cool to have like some sort of turf war kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Not that Andrea's exactly that kind of guy, but
yeah, like for like spheres of influence. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would have been more interesting too, rather than them and their whole like their status in Wall Market is basically the fact that they can offer up women to Don Corneo. I think is really dumb. Like I would have liked to see more of like how they run their businesses. Like one of them runs basically the taxi industry of the place. One of them runs Madam M runs the massage parlor. Then the other one owns like the brothel / entertainment theater kind of thing. Like that would have been interesting to see. But
yeah, basically all we're really asking for is we wish we saw more individuality and like independence.
Yeah.
Sure, they could still be under Don Corneo, but yeah, it's like you said, that's their sole purpose.
Yeah, so that's kind of a letdown as far as the trio goes. But the Don Corneo part, once you actually get all in, Cloud cross-dresses as a woman. Aerith gets dressed up in her nice dress after you win Madam M a bunch of money at the Coliseum. And by the way, Tifa's already in there. She was trying to infiltrate Don Corneo and get some information out of him. But I don't know. Apparently you can have different costumes for this area. Do you care about that? It's a trophy. It's a pain in the ass to unlock. I'm in the process of doing it. Fuck that. But
I mean,
so
I will be doing it, yeah. But I honestly had no idea you could get different things until I looked at the trophies afterwards.
Yeah. It's a pain in the ass, man. We'll get to it later, but did you get the nice dresses for everybody? I'm assuming you probably did if you did all the quests and stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know how many different ones Tifa has. I know Aerith has a couple.
There's
I got
3 for
Aerith
each.
in like a red dress.
Yeah, that's the best one for her. Yeah.
Cloud was in like a black and purple
It's the best ones.
Victorian
Yeah.
thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it sounds like you probably got the best ones for all of them. Yeah.
Cool. Dude,
Well,
just gonna,
was
just gonna
Tifa
throw
in
it
like
out there.
Huh? Sorry.
Just gonna throw it out there. Aerith in that red dress made me question Tifa for a minute.
Really? Huh.
Just for a minute.
All right. There was like a big hubbub about like Tifa's bust size being reduced.
Yeah.
Did they revert it back? It's still comedic how fucking big they are.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't know if they backtracked on that, especially in Corneo's mansion. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Um,
What outfit did you get for Tifa? I think it kind of, depending on the outfit, it really shows.
I want to say she was in purple as well.
Okay. Was it like a dress or was it like a Eastern kind of dress?
I don't remember exactly.
Okay. Well,
let me look at the dresses. See if I could just Google it.
One of the dresses that she wears, I'm like, okay, so she's really thin and, everything's proportioned like a human being would be proportioned. And then you see her bust size and it's like, that is inhuman, Even women who have like breast implants don't have that big boobs. It's ridiculous. Why are people complaining about this?
I guess it was blue. Sorry. I'm looking at it right now. But
yeah, the blue one. The blue one is fine.
That one definitely shows off.
It shows off a lot of cleavage, but one of the other ones, I'm just kind of like, this, all right, whatever. But anyways, that's the fan servicey section, and I hate that it's a trophy because it's a piece of shit to get. But
I like to think that one of these dresses, Tifa's hair, in my head, it's just gonna be a Chun-Li reference.
Oh yeah. That's the dress I'm actually talking about, where I'm like, this is.
It has a window.
Yeah. God. But after you meet Don Corneo, he's this slum, like the leader, like the big man of the slums of Wall Market, and basically he's a piece of shit. And what I am disappointed in is that he only ever picks Cloud. He never picks any of the other three, which he did in the original. Depending on what you got, he would pick one of the three. He only picks Cloud in this one, which isn't as fun. But anyways, he sends you to the slums again, or not the slums, the sewers. So how did you feel about the sewer section of the game? I don't know if there's much to say about it, but
I enjoyed the boss fight for a while, and then towards the end it got more annoying. But
the boss fight
again, I want to say it's like Abzu or something like that. But you fight it as soon as you get into the sewers. Then after that, it's whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
It's every area mostly looks the same, which I get. It's a sewer, yeah. And then the like turtle enemies, I think I had the most trouble in the game with them, as opposed to any of the bosses, anything like that.
Yeah, they're assholes. Have you played it on hard yet?
No, but I'm excited to.
Tonberries will fuck you up if you don't do things right. I'm just gonna say Tonberries, the worst fucking thing in the game.
Yeah, I'm nervous about that. I was disappointed in it on normal or whatever I played on.
Oh, they'll fuck you up, man. You can't use items, and so all the Phoenix Downs are out the door. You have to have resurrection materia.
Oh boy!
And they.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, but anyways, the sewer is not a lot to write home about, really. The Sahagin are assholes, and they're difficult to fight. But after that, you come up, and you're in the train graveyard, which is another very iconic part of the game. I don't know. How did you feel about the train graveyard? It becomes kind of like a horror movie not a movie, but like a suspense/horror game for a little while. How do you feel about that?
It falls back on I didn't need this to be in the game. Like the train graveyard in the original is just supposed to be like a little spooky, and the characters just kind of walk through. They're like, "Oh, I think I heard something," and you're done with it in or so minutes.
Yeah.
And this one, I didn't mind there being ghosts and this other stuff, but it carried on a little long, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it overstayed its welcome. I think it was actually really good, like for a while, and then it was kind of like, all right, I want to get out of this. Like the jig is up here. Let's move on.
Yeah, basically you have these ghosts messing around with you, and then it culminates into like a boss fight with all these fused ghosts, which I enjoyed that boss fight. But then after, as you're about to leave the train graveyard, you're pulled into another boss fight where you fight
Oh yeah.
like another ghost that's puppeteering those other ghosts. And that's the part where I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, I do like that actually that boss, that second boss you're talking about. I thought it was really cool that he's just a regular enemy in the original, but they made him like a big boss, and they do that with a few different enemies in this. And I actually really love that kind of stuff. And so
I mean, I had fun with that second boss too, but it was that was just at the point where I was ready to be over with the train graveyard.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I like. It's creepy for a little while. I remember at one point as you're about to step onto a train and there's like the conductor's voice or whatever, and he's like, now boarding for Midgar. Then it gets all distorted and low, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of actually creepy sounding. Like,
yeah,
it's not like enough to be like, oh my god, or I want to turn the game off. But I did kind of like get chills where like, ooh, that's kind of creepy sounding because it's very good audio design right there. But other than that,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, other than that, it's just meh. It's like, oh, there's dead kids being ghosts. Woo!
Which in itself is like, it's kind of, they're saying they're dead kids, and the background, the history of that is a little more subtle, but that's probably the most fucked up part of the game.
Yeah, that's true. It is dark, but again, it's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't hate kids. It's just kind of like I'm not playing this game for kids. You know, like I don't care about the kids. But anyways,
I feel like they either should have lightened up the tone a little bit. I like the horror element, but then you'd have really like Kingdom Hearts looking ghosts to fight until you get to that second boss, or they just made the ghost designs a little more serious. I don't know. That's a small nitpick there. Really, I'm happy that little section wasn't what I thought it was going to be, because as you enter your like first little ghost encounter, Tifa and Aerith like latch on the Cloud, and I thought it was just going to be one of those like cute moments, but they were like really ham-fisting it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it didn't go that direction.
Yeah.
It was funny seeing Aerith kind of just trying to chat with the ghost, and Tifa's freaking out the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another thing about like Aerith, is that like she knows from the very beginning that she has this power and that she's making no bones about it. And I don't remember, like, she doesn't mention it explicitly, but like she's talking to ghosts and she's like, oh, these whispers, like, I don't know. It just seemed like, again, it seemed like a Sephiroth kind of thing where it's like, we don't learn about this until later on, so you're kind of spoiling. But anyways, so after you get out of the train graveyard,
Oh, sorry, real quick. There was one moment that came at the very end that I really liked. It's like an Aerith flashback scene. She gets separated from Cloud and Tifa, and she has this flashback of her playing with other kids, hide and seek or something, and they didn't actually go look for her. So she starts crying, but then it shows Cloud and Tifa come in, and I felt like that was just a good character moment. Like she has somewhere she can fit in now. It's a quick moment, but I really liked it.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I guess I'm heartless because it's like anything with the kids. I'm realizing now. I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember that actually happening, and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cheesy." Where they're like, "We found you," like when Tifa says that after that flashback. Where
Yeah.
it's like nobody
But-
came to find me, and after playing hide and seek, and then Tifa's like, "We found you," and she's like, "Oh my god, you did, yes!" And I'm like, "Oh my god, all right, let's just get on with it," you know?
Yeah, the dialogue there was a little. They probably could have just found her and not said anything, but
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a lot of cheesy dialogue as we played for you at the beginning. I have skill. All right, so the last little chapters 12 through 18 is where I have here. It's from Pillar Collapse to Destiny's Crossroads. So my first question here is, what do you think about the Rufus-Rude dynamic at play? We kind of touched on it earlier, but they seem less
Reno-Rude?
humor. Rufus? Oh, yeah, Reno Rude. I don't know why I have Rufus there. Good catch. Reno Rude. They seem less comical, yeah, I did feel that. But also, I know their whole job is to be like, we're amoral. We're an amoral entity, the Turks, and so we just do what we want to do, but they're both, like, we shouldn't be collapsing this pillar, but they both just go straight through it with it, and
yeah.
I'm struggling whether that's like good character development or if that's like unnecessary. Like I don't know. I guess it kind of depends on what they do with them in the future, but I don't know.
Are you referring to how they were hesitant, or that
Yeah,
they
like
went through with it? Or?
like Rude the entire time is just kind of like, it's our job, and he's kind of just silent. Whereas Reno is like, I really don't want to be doing this, but since I have to do it, let's just fucking get it over with, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably them just trying to build up the characters of the Turks.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
I guess this leads into my knowledge of the original. I think the Turks in the Midgar section, they were not so much humorous. I think it's after you leave Midgar in the original where they start to give them funny moments, give them nice character moments.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I liked that Reno was hesitant about it. You get a quick little nod to Rude having a thing for Tifa when I think they're shooting at someone coming up the stairs and Rude sees a turret and just jerks the helicopter away.
I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, that makes sense, actually. I thought it was just like he didn't want to hurt. He didn't actually want to kill anybody. That's what I thought that was, but yeah.
I don't know. They didn't seem to have too much of an issue, but I think that's really just for me having played the original so recently.
Yeah, maybe.
Shit, I guess.
I don't know. There's a lot of connections to be made between the original and this one, and I think it's good. But my next question is: Wedge, Biggs, and several other Sector 7 residents are now alive. Do you think that lessens the impact that the collapsing of the plate had in the original? I think this is exactly what I'm talking about with Square Enix, whether it be Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy VII Remake, or any other fucking Final Fantasy games they've made, is that they can't keep characters dead. They just fucking can't. And it's like, it's okay to kill characters. It's alright. I mean, in the age of Game of Thrones, post Game of Thrones, I thought that was common knowledge, but they have a really hard time doing this. And it bugs the shit out of me because it's like in the original, it's like, oh, nobody fucking lived, and that's a big deal. Like you don't see Wedge and Biggs and Jesse again. They're, for all intents and purposes, dead. You don't have a whole section about, having people escape. I don't know, man. I think this is a major issue if they're going to keep going on with this issue, just for the company as a whole. It's like, your characters can die. Just let them die. I don't care if there's something great that they do with Wedge and Biggs later. Just let them die. It's fine.
I agree.
But
I didn't mind Aerith's little segment where you play as her going to find Marlene, and
that was in the
seeing
original,
people.
so that's okay. Yeah, sorry.
like seeing people scramble and like try to get out, and the Shinra guards are like, no, no way. I like seeing the panic and all that. But yeah, I think in later chapters you see like a little segment of Sector 7 survivors, and there's too many people there.
Yeah.
And like
Exactly.
even all the important people that you interacted with in previous chapters, they're all there.
Yeah. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Even like Marl or whatever the fuck that other guy's name is, and the weapon shop dealer and the item shop. It's like all these guys survived. Like what is that worth, man? Like everybody I saw in Sector 7 is still alive. So to me as a player, it's like, oh well, I guess it actually wasn't that bad.
But yeah, like in the original, I got the sense that nobody made it. Like it just crushed the entirety of Sector 7. Whereas, I mean, I think in like the next chapter, 2 chapters, whatever, you even go back to Sector 7 and go through the rubble and everything, whereas in the original, Sector 7 was completely blocked off by rubble. There was no way to get in there.
Yeah. And like
So yeah, they really shit the bed.
Yeah, and even when you go back, like it looks pretty much the exact same. Like it's still a shithole, just with different looking shit. Like it was so stupid. And that whole section is like, okay, we got to go rescue Wedge. Maybe he's still alive. And wow, he's still alive because his cats or something fucking saved him. Some stupid shit. And then you go down and it's like, oh, they're building this test lab underneath our feet. Whoa, crazy. And it's like, what is this side trek? I mean, in the next chapter, for God's sake, you learn about Hojo's experiments. There's the second to last chapter is all about how the crazy shit Hojo's doing. Like, why do we need a hint at it right here? Like, just it's fine. Yeah. Just that whole section needed to go bye-bye. That section, that chapter was so stupid, and I don't like it.
Like, yeah, that was my least favorite chapter. It didn't make any sense. They allude to it earlier where they're like, oh yeah, Shinra has secret underground lab.
Yeah.
They even go like underground here. But what I didn't expect was that it was exclusively like Sector 7 that they were underneath. That's the only place you can get to it from that chapter.
Yeah.
So it feels, it would have just made more sense being in the next chapter.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like Hojo's lab is a very large portion of the game where you see all of his fucked up like experiments. So whatever.
And even then, that like, I want to say the monsters, ex-humans you fight in this area were, I want to say they had something to do with Soldier or Mako, which is something you also don't really delve into too much this early in the original game.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Not a fan. It wasn't absolutely horrible. The boss fight that you do in here kind of lacking for me too, but
yeah, it wasn't wonderful. It's
and
a weak
you do go
chapter.
through it mostly as Barrett, and he wasn't my favorite to play as.
He's one of my favorites to play as, and I think the whole reason that chapter exists is just to have you like main him as a character for a little while. And I'm like, this doesn't need to happen. Like, you just move on. That is 100% why that chapter exists, is so that you can main as Barrett. It's so stupid, but anyways, so after that, you decide to go back and get Aerith. So now we're in Shinra Tower. I don't have a lot to say. I feel like the whole section of Tifa having to do the monkey bars and shit to get to the key card was very stupid and unnecessary, and just it slowed the game down, which is a problem throughout the game.
Yeah, that segment went too long as well.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it, but it was like a 10-minute platforming thing when it should have been maybe 3.
Yeah, exactly. I do enjoy, however, they kept the whole, like, you can take the stairs or you can take the elevator part. And
oh, yeah. I love that.
Which one did you take?
Stairs.
Stairs? I did too my first time. And it's a pain in the ass. I feel fatigued just doing the circle button for that long, and I don't remember it being that long in the original, but you definitely count every
in the
floor.
original. What was that?
I said you definitely count every floor in the remake, for sure.
Yeah, in the original, you can actually run the entire time,
Oh.
which really helps. In this one, like your character can start off running and you actually get fatigued.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I approached it wrong, but they have like a floor counter. You have to go up 58 floors or 59 floors, something like that. But they have a floor counter for each character, which made me feel like you could actually compete in a way. But I don't think you can. I think Tifa always beats you.
Yeah.
And I think Barrett even beat me.
Really? I had to wait for Barrett. He was slow as shit.
I think I stopped at a floor to wait for him just to see if it would do anything. And then he somehow got ahead of me and I just could not pick up the momentum.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I felt like it was supposed to be a competition thing, but maybe I just approached it wrong. But
yeah.
Tifa was done with all the flights like 5 minutes before I got there.
Yeah. Hey man, it's that Zanga, whatever the fuck her teacher's name is, training.
Yeah.
Fuck, I forget his name.
But no, the dialogue here, it was great. I don't know what happens if you take the elevator. I'm assuming it's over in an instant, but just the dialogue and Barrett complaining and everything was fun.
Yeah. It's funny, I've been playing it over again for the trophies, and so I went both ways, and either way Barrett complains. Because
Really?
if you take the elevator, you run into enemies. Like that's the trade-off, right? You don't run into enemies if you take the stairs, but you do if you take the elevator. And so after fighting, he's like, "Why the fuck didn't we take the stairs?" But anyway, it's just one of those moments where you can't please Barrett. But after that, you have to go through a whole. How did you feel about the whole museum approach? This was kind of new to the remake, and it's just a big lore dump right there. But I don't know. I didn't actually mind the whole like walk through the museum and get a idea of what the breakdown of Shinra departments are, because I think that stuff becomes important later on in the game. But again, that's only because I know the original story. I'm trying to think of somebody who hasn't played the game before, and they're just like, "What the fuck is this? Let me get back to playing the game." So
I liked it. I thought it was cool. I didn't like that you had to actually fully and entirely sit through the presentation, which it was just like maybe like it was like I think it was beginning and ending each little section. They have like 1-2 minute videos that they play, but like I'd fully explore one exhibit, and then as I'm about to walk out the door to the next one, it just plays a video that you can't go past.
yeah.
And I feel like the videos didn't offer me anything. Maybe it's because I already knew, or I feel like the information was in the exhibit itself.
Yeah.
It's a minor nitpick thing, but yeah, I liked it.
I think the first video has relevance, where it's showing you like the different department heads and what they're doing. Like they show Scarlet and Palmer and all that shit. But the second one, where it's just like, watch Mako flow through the city of Midgar for 2 minutes. I'm like, oh, Jesus. Let me move on. But the next part I have is, I don't remember if this is in the original game or not, but the mayor of Midgar is like the head of Avalanche. He's like the brain of, he's the head pin of Avalanche. I know he was like a kooky guy in the original, and he was like giving you puzzles and shit, but I didn't think he was ever part of Avalanche.
No, in the original, he's not. He's just a weird dude, and he's basically like, hey, you have to do something with books on the floor he's on, and it's a pain in the ass. So I'm glad that puzzle specifically wasn't in here.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense. I didn't have a problem with him being like the informant, the head, whatever he was.
Mayor Domino, by the way, is a cool name. I love that name. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought he was kind of fun. He's a cool little minor character and I love how he addresses like, I think this is a really good retcon that they have actually is where he's like, you're surprised like the whole building hasn't come down on you after you've basically killed all these people in the basement and on the first and like 50th floors, like,
Yeah.
and you're surprised nobody's there. It's because of me. I'm the reason that you're not, neck deep in Shinra soldiers right now. And
They toned him down in all the right ways, because in the original he was just kind of kooky and crazy. In this one, he's like, yeah, I've been helping you out. I could take things seriously, but I feel like his motivation is, he's like he tells you a password that you have to give to someone else. And it's like, what do you think of the mayor, or Mayor Domino was awesome, or something like that.
Yeah, it's like, go up to the informant, ask the people, the mayor, just say the mayor, and they'll say, is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They toned him down in all the right ways, and he still has that life that the character had, and that's great. But
and I like that they kept in his like servant if you need. It was unnecessary in this game, because in the original he's like, oh, I'll give you hints how to solve this puzzle, but you got to pay me for it, and each subsequent hint he gives you just costs exorbitant amounts of money.
Yeah.
And in this one, he's like, yeah, I'll help you out, but really you don't need it at all in this game.
Yeah. Did you pay for it?
No.
Oh, you should
I
have.
was sitting there thinking like, this seems easy enough.
Yeah, it was. We played the game so similarly. I had the exact same thought. I was like, oh, it's easy. I don't need his help. But it turns out if you pay him, he gives really bad advice. And then Barrett's like, are you fucking kidding me? And he's like, oh, you're not happy? Here, take this gun. And he gives it to Barrett, and Barrett's like, oh, cool, thanks. So if you want that trophy for getting all the abilities, you have to go back and pay him 10,000 gil.
God damn.
Yeah, it is so stupid. I hated it. But my next one is about a big spoiler, but so I totally overlooked Red 13. I didn't have anything here for him. So after you rescue Aerith and you have Red 13, how do you feel about Red 13 not actually being a playable character?
I mean, we didn't skip him yet. We weren't.
Well, I just
there.
mean on my notes here. I'm going from memory.
Oh. I was a little upset. I was thinking, I'm like, are they going to introduce him earlier in the game? If we're just doing Midgar somehow? Like, I was expecting to run into him in that Sector 7 lab. But,
Oh, yeah.
no, they're just like, he's going to be with you for the last 2 chapters. But those 2 chapters are long.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of like, yeah, he's like a guest character.
Yeah, and Red 13 seems weird to me. Like, he looks too gaunt. Like, he looks unhealthy. I don't know. Like in Advent Children or whatever, he seems hardy and healthy and muscular, and this one he looks very, like, starved. It's like, I don't know.
I mean, that could even be an approach they just took to it, because he was experimented on, and then Advent Children is X amount of years after. Maybe he just builds it up. I don't know. That's just me brainstorming. But yeah, he's very thin. I liked him. I liked his character, what little we got of it.
Yeah.
He did seem like he warmed up to the party very quickly, because he starts off very dismissive, kind of like, yeah, I'll accompany you guys if it gets me out of here. And then towards the end of the game, he's like helping you out actively, going out of his way.
Yeah, actually, that's right. I think in the original, he's very kind of like, I'm only in this because I want to get back home. And he doesn't actually
even when
care
you
for
get him home, he's like, yeah, peace out. See you later.
Yeah. And now he's immediately like, Hojo, he still has plans for us yet. And he's very like Nostradamus kind of shit voice going on. Yeah, we'll see what he does, what they do with him in the next game, but I don't know. There's not a lot to say about him. He's he had to make an appearance because he makes the appearance in the original game, but it didn't make sense for them to put all that development time for him to be there for 2 chapters. So, yeah. All right. So my next question is kind of big, and I don't know if there's something you want to talk about in between Red 13 and this, but did you feel as disappointed in the last couple of chapters as I was? More specifically, Barrett's quote-unquote death and Hojo's little labyrinth.
We don't have to talk about it now, but before we move on, I don't know if we want to say anything about Hojo, really. But he's basically, his chapter 17, this felt like the longest chapter, and it very well could have been.
I mean, if you play back for the trophies, you might feel differently, but we'll see.
Okay.
Just because it's so fucking mind-numbing.
It just felt really long, and there wasn't much to it other than, hey, go open this door, go in there and fight some enemies, and go open another door.
Yeah.
It was a disappointing chapter, and if I didn't like the combat of the game as much as I do, it would have been awful.
Yeah, Hojo's labyrinth is it's only there to showcase, I feel like, Hojo is a crazy person. And again, we didn't need that other chapter hinting towards it or whatever. But it's exactly what you said. It's opening one door for one party, and then the other party going and fighting, and then that party that just fought opens a door for that other party and they go fight. And it's a leapfrog kind of thing. And it was basically a way for them to get the PHS system in the game, which is just stupid.
Yeah. I usually enjoy in games where you have like 2 separate groups and you can kind of help and coordinate together, but this one wasn't done particularly well in my opinion.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, you summed it up pretty well, I think. The gameplay is good, and so that's why it's not terrible to just have to go into these doors and fight these monsters, and then open another door and fight monsters. But it did seem, for us who know the story as well as we probably do, it seemed like a big speed bump on the way to what we're actually wanting to get to, which is like the assassination of President Shinra and Rufus's arrival, and it's a big, just like, oh, so I have to go through this bullshit before I get all the good shit. And so it was a little disappointing, but
yeah, and then it's like you said, where it's kind of setting up Hojo, but I feel like even just his little bit at the end of chapter 16, I think, really sets him up. You're like, God, this guy's insane and creepy, and
yeah,
he's everything he's supposed to be.
He does the whole thing where it's like he's talking to Aerith, yeah, and he's like, "You're my sweet little test subject. I'll be right back. Just you wait," kind of thing. And I mean, he basically sets the Genova monster poison thingy on you. It's like, I think we get his general idea here. We don't need a whole section about him being like, oh, I need more data, fight my monsters, more data. It's like, just move on, man. I wanna get to fighting Rufus and shit. But so after that whole labyrinth scene, you finally get to the Trail of Blood, which I think is also very cool in the original. And
it should have been in this one.
Yeah, what should have been in place of the labyrinth.
Well, I mean, no, you still sort of get that in this one, where you get a trail leading up to President Shinra's office, but in this one it's more like purple, shimmery liquid. And
bubbly.
You get maybe it's probably Genova's blood, she's alien, whatever, but I remember always being so unnerved in the original one when you see just actually red crimson blood leading up all the way.
Yeah.
And the music and how there's nobody else in the building.
Yeah, the original did a much better suspense, scary, unnerving feeling at that point. That's right, and a lot of it's probably just from the color. And the major change between remake and the original, I think, in this part is that President Shinra is still alive when you get there, and that was a disappointment for me. Only because, well, I don't even know. Because it was good to have that interaction with him. I think it was important for Barrett specifically to be like, where he does the little like tossing him around the edge and stuff. But it was so cool in the original where you follow that trail of blood and then you come up to the president's desk and there's just this fucking giant katana in his fucking back. And it's like, oh shit. Whoa. You know, and it's, and that's when you start to learn about Sephiroth and how crazy it is. Because you're building up to this point where in the original, you're building up to this point where you're going to have this interaction with President Shinra, and then you get there and he's dead, you know? So.
Yeah, everything from the moment where you start following the trail to President Shinra's death, I much preferred in the original.
Yeah.
Like, that was an important moment for Barrett to realize, and Shinra actually had a good point, more or less, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was fine. It just served as and his whole Barrett's death shit was like really stupid. That was just a way to make sure that you don't have to have 4 people in the party to fight that Genova boss. But yeah. I mean, I guess for a second I was like, oh, are they really going to kill Barrett this early? And I'm like, no, they can't do that. That would be stupid. And then lo and behold, it's like, oh, how does he even come back to life? I don't even remember. Is it the Whispers or something? They're just like, oh, come back to life.
Either protected him in some way or just straight up brought him back to life. I don't know.
So fucking stupid.
Yeah, it was dumb. I already kind of got the sense they're like, it's like, okay, they're going to veer off a little bit, and then Sephiroth stabs Barrett, and I'm like, oh, are they actually going to do this? There was a minute there where I believed it.
Yeah, I had heard a lot about like how the ending was really bad or like disappointing, and so I was like, oh man, is this what they mean? They're going to kill off Barrett? And you know, I'm stupid because I just literally played a chapter where they didn't kill a character that was already dead. So
yeah,
you know, I probably, you know, I'm gullible in that sense, but I don't know.
And then Barrett sort of had a complete arc with the Shinra interaction, but yeah, I'm like, are they going to kill him? But I was over that within like a minute, so.
Yeah. And so you fight Rufus, and that fight I think was fun. I always loved that fight in the original, because that felt more like how a one-on-one should be, rather than how that soldier guy in the beginning was, where it's like Cloud, the biggest badass of the group, is like, all right, well, we need to get the hell out of here. I'm gonna hold this guy off, and that makes more sense to me that he would do that. Mm-hmm. And then the fact that he has like a little fucking dog with him, like a hellhound, I'm like, oh, that's sick as fuck. I always loved Rufus, and so I loved the fight, but I think it's a little bit weighted on in your favor. Like, I was never really in danger of dying, because even though they have some crazy like in tandem moves that can really like knock you on your ass, it never does enough damage to hurt you that much. Yeah. So that was a little disappointing on that end.
Have you gotten back to him on hard at all?
Yeah, it's still the same thing. It's not a lot of damage.
'Cause it was an easy fight. It was. I think this was actually my favorite boss fight in the game, but yeah, I didn't exactly have difficulty with it.
Yeah, I just like the theme.
He had he had weird timing with his attacks, and it took me a while to figure that out. So it was challenging, but not in like a difficult manner, I guess.
Yeah, it was more like a puzzle than it was a challenge. So trying to figure
But
out where the
Rufus,
pieces fit.
really fucking cool in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Like he throws the coins up. I don't know. Something about coins and guns when they're put together. I love it. but
I was shocked though when he fucking shot the coin and a goddamn giant laser shot at him.
That was so cool. My next thing is just ending. How do you feel about the ending from? I don't know how to describe it other than somebody brought a good point up that it was I forget the guy's name, the director, Nomura. It's always a Nomura thing where at the end of the game you got to fight like a big old fucking heartless monster kind of shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about the bike minigame again, fighting that boss or whatever. They're fine.
No, you could do the bike minigame again. The way I thought it was going to go is I thought you'd do the bike minigame and fight that boss, and then Roche would show up again, and I thought he'd be the final boss, honestly.
I didn't know how they were going to end it. I honestly would have been fine if you just fought the road monster thing, and then it was like, you get a nice cutscene where it's like, on to the next adventure kind of thing. But instead, what you do is Aerith has to be like, you guys, I know. Like, it's a total 180 from what her personality is to begin with, where she's just a playful girl and she's having a good time, and then all of a sudden she's like, we need to be very serious. And I need to tell you guys that the planet is going to die because a meteor is going to come and destroy it. If we don't fight this destiny thing, if we don't destroy destiny, and these whispers that are surrounding the Shinra building, and she's like fucking Jesus Christ all of a sudden. And it's like, I feel like, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the original, it's like it's a journey, and she's discovering these powers that she has. Like, she always knows there's something different about her, but she's kind of discovering it as she goes along. Whereas at the end of the game, it's just like, oh, she knows everything that she's omniscient. She's an omniscient being all of a sudden. Like, that really fucking was stupid to me. And then,
no, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, and then Sephiroth being like, I'm here for you, Cloud. I'll be waiting, Cloud. It's like, oh, come on, man. Like, he's not supposed to show up yet. Like, that's how I felt. But anyway.
Yeah. It was a lot all at once. And honestly, I was listening to Aerith the whole time trying to make sense of it. And I didn't know what the fuck she was talking about until I beat the game.
I still don't. It's like,
went back and retroactively watched the scene. And yeah, like, it still doesn't completely make sense, but I could actually grasp onto some of what she was saying.
Yeah, I don't get the whole fate thing. Like, where did that come out? Like, that came literally out of nowhere. Like, fate was not in the story at all. I mean, there was the whispers and shit, and there was, like, weird shit with the whispers. But the whispers didn't need to be in there to begin with. Like, whatever. But just in general, this fight, the final bit illustrated something that was such an oversight on their part, where a lot of this game is grounded in reality-based physics, so to speak. Like, you have to do the overhead fucking monkey bars shit to get from one platform to the other, and it's like, okay, well, that's what a normal human would be doing. And then in this final fight, you're jumping from platform to platform, like all anime style and shit, and I'm like, what? Like, this is a totally different, the physics of this are totally different. And I guess you could write that away by being like, oh, this is a dimension, this is a different dimension, and they can be jumping from platform to platform, and there's these crystal-looking guys with gun arms and, like, sword arms, and they're red and yellow and blue, and they're all, like, visual representations of fate, of, like, the counterparts of... It was just so stupid and out of left field, and it didn't need to be there. And it's a Nomura thing, because he's the director of Kingdom Hearts, and I think he did Final Fantasy 15 too. No, he didn't do Final Fantasy 15. What am I thinking of? He's I don't know. It doesn't matter. But he's notorious for this kind of shit, where it's like, oh, you got to fight the big bad, and it's like I immediately just had flashbacks to the giant heartless at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts, and I'm like, why? Why? You know, it's like this wasn't a part of this game. And I don't know. The ending is pretty stupid. That ending fight, it's a pain in the ass. It's not. Again, it's just you got to take a beating by these fucking crystal-looking dudes. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Fair. I didn't care for the big old fight with the heartless looking thing, and even like the little crystal guys, whatever. It was, I don't know, I was upset that it was going that direction. And then when you kill it, which is basically like I don't know, we really need to like fully discuss the last part to even go back and talk about how I feel about this last chapter in general.
You mean with like the Sephiroth fight and shit?
And like the last ending scenes and stuff, I don't know.
Hmm.
Because I feel like it all doubles back on itself, and it's all...
It's all such a jumble to me. Again, it was just like, I don't know. And they're getting like these flashes of things to come, and then Red 13 says something weird where he's like, where they like flashes in their mind, like Red 13 running with all of his younglings, and that was like from, I think, Advent Children, and he's like, it's a vision of what's to come if we fail here today. But then I'm like, doesn't that happen because you succeed? Like, I'm so confused by the whole thing. It makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah.
The game would have just been so much better if it just didn't have this fighting section. And I don't know what you need to talk about to explain stuff, so go ahead. Again, I'm at a loss. It's just a big jumble of shit that doesn't need to be there.
I don't know. I don't understand everything yet, and I feel like that's intentional. I feel like they went to be ambiguous, and basically the ending of this game is them saying like, okay, this is your remake, and from here on out, just all bets are off. Like, we're gonna do from here on, it's gonna be sort of an original story. I think they'll still hit like the highlights of the original one, but I don't think from here on out we should expect Final Fantasy VII Remake 2, essentially.
I don't know. I've seen articles going around of Nomura being like, we're not going to change that much from the story. The major plot points are still going to be there. And it's just kind of like, well, I don't know if that's the case anymore. Like,
yeah,
I'm like you. I think probably it's going to be a lot different. And I don't like it. Like, that change for Aerith is so dumb to me. And it's like, you went from building her up as this really like sweet little girl, and then jumping all the way to the fucking city of the ancients, and there's no in between. It's like, where's all that shit that people actually like to see in Aerith between then? Like, I don't know. I'm not. I didn't realize I was as passionate about the ending as I am now realizing, but I'm not a fan. Not a fan. Again,
real quick, I'm just gonna speed through and then double back and just give my actual impression, I guess.
Yeah, sorry.
More or less, you fight Sephiroth, and you can win the fight, but you don't. Like, story-wise, you don't, but I don't know. But you do, I don't know. And Sephiroth basically is aware of how events are supposed to transpire, like from the original game. He loses, but somehow he's aware of that, so he made you kill Fate, so they can't let that be the case. So now Sephiroth has his own thing. I think he's still planning on doing Meteor, but he's going to go about it differently. And after that, it keeps cutting, or Sephiroth is telling Cloud, you have 7 seconds. I don't know what the hell that line's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to another character called Zack a lot in this last chapter. and it shows little glimpses of him, which I learned that these glimpses are basically like a shot for shot of Crisis Core.
Yeah, actually, I did catch on to that. That was actually really fucking cool. I thought that was cool. But again, if nobody's played this game before, they don't know who the fuck this is. They're just like, who's this guy with black hair that has a sword? Like, what?
Exactly.
The fuck?
And basically, since you kill Fate, I guess it has like this weird ripple through time. So Zack is essentially, he's supposed to die for Cloud to become the person he is, but now Zack might be alive, or there's like alternate timelines, and I don't like that. I kind of hope, which I still don't like, but I kind of hope my best wishes are that they're just pleasing Zack fans, and they're like, hey, in one timeline he's alive, you know, maybe he is happy, and we never see him again. But I really doubt that's the case.
I do too. I didn't even make any of these connections, and now that you're talking about it, I'm freaking out, man. I'm freaking out. I told you I was thinking that this game was going to be a piece of shit, and then I was pleasantly surprised, and I actually think it's really good, regardless of what my bitching about this episode has been. I think it's actually pretty good. And now I'm thinking maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe these next games that they release will actually be shitty, and I don't want that. Oh my god.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Basically, at the very end, they fly up to the sky and it says the unknown journey will continue. And that's why I think they're basically just going to be, we'll probably still go to like the Gold Saucer. All these big events and locations will probably stay, but a lot of other stuff and how they go about it is going to change. Mm-hmm. Which I would have been perfectly fine if they shot for shot remade it. And that would have been perfectly fine with me. I would have loved it. And I'm worried, but at the same time, I'm a little excited. Just like, wow, I don't know what's going to happen. And if it is good, it'll be really cool for it to be something new, but I don't know. I'm worried still.
See, I would be excited for a new story within this universe if they had, like, compelled me to believe that they can write a good story on their own in recent years, which they haven't. Yeah. They haven't shown me that. You know, I'm thinking of Final Fantasy 15 and the trash heap that was on release, at least. I don't know. They might have changed it. And they don't know how to tell a good story anymore. And what made this game good is that they had source material from when they could write a good story, and they were just remaking it, putting tweaks on it, which is good. You guys can do that really well. You guys have shown me that. When you try to branch off into this own random shit is when you get bad. And I don't have any faith in it. I was so excited for Final Fantasy 15. I thought, wow, this has the potential to be maybe the best Final Fantasy story. And I was really hyped on it. And then what do? Wow, big holes in story. It's like, wow, we're gonna fight. Oh my god, we're gonna fight Leviathan, and then one of your characters is blind, and then we're gonna jump ahead like fucking 6 months, and we're gonna go to this area where it has a lot of story relevance, and then you're not gonna actually go into that place, and then we're gonna move on again, and it's like, oh my god,
yeah,
fuck. Do not write your own story. Please, for fuck's sake, stick to the 7 story, please. Man, I'm scared, man. You've struck a fear in me that I don't know that I wanted after this.
Oh, I apologize.
Oh man. It can't be like 15, man.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know, 'cause yeah, they don't give me a lot of faith in writing stories, but the moments that were really good in this game made it seem like it was made by people who love the original game.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hoping that energy carries over and they really want to do it justice. But yeah, I can't help but be worried that it's going to be too crazy. My biggest hope is that we actually, like, more or less beat Fate and we just don't see the whispers or hear any mention of that again.
Yeah. I'm hoping that whole thing was just to end cap this game and it has no actual relevance on the whole series, whatever they do.
Yeah, I think it was just. I'm hoping it was just a plot device for this game for them to say, "Hey, we are doing our own thing," and then that's it. That's all I want.
Yeah. I don't know. I fucking... Just please don't stray too far from the original story, because I don't think your writers are that good. If Square is listening, please. Please. God damn it, man. I'm so nervous. All right, well, that's all the story notes I have. Out of breath, because I was getting heated in about 15. Gameplay. Okay. What are your overall thoughts on the gameplay? You said you liked it. What do you like?
I really enjoy the gameplay, combat, and everything in this game.
Did you like it from the get-go, or did you have to warm up to it?
Oh, I enjoyed it from the get-go, and then it only gets like more levels to it, and it is even better by the end game, in my opinion. I wasn't one of the people going into this where I'm like, I want this to be turn-based again. I was stoked that it was going to be more action-oriented. And it feels like a more mature kind of Kingdom Hearts kind of combat. My biggest complaint with it is like aerial combat. When you get a lot of flying enemies, it's really bad. Because you can like go up and do like one or two strikes, and then they'll like more or less strafe a few feet to the right or left, and you have to fall back down to the ground, run over to them, and do it again.
See,
like a repeat. You could use magic and stuff, but
that's why I liked Barret. Is flying enemies were bitches. Because
Barret, I mean, especially in moments where you didn't have him, it really got me.
That's fair. Yeah, when they first showed bits and pieces of how the gameplay was going to work, I was getting major 15 vibes, and I think 15 was fine, and then it got really mind-numbing and boring, and so I was nervous about that. And so I think, honestly, I know a lot of people say Final Fantasy XIII has the best combat. I think this is the best combat for any action RPG going forward. I think it's genius, actually. Even though the enemies can be really easy at times, if you don't do the work to put in your damage, the fight's gonna like drag on, and I think that's good. It has everything, and I think it's really fantastic because you do have the action elements to build up the ATB, and then you have the turn-based aspect with the abilities and the magic and everything. And
which I was worried was gonna really bog it down because you're moving so fast and frenetic, and then you have to go into these menus and it slows time basically. But no, it never took me out of it.
Yeah, that's actually why I asked if it took you a little while to get used to the system or not, because when you don't know what ability is in the menu, it does slow it down where you have to pause it and you're like, okay, go through menus. All right, fire.
That's why it was nice that they even included like hotkeys.
Yeah, I would have liked more, frankly.
Yeah, if we got a bit more, it would have been fine.
But yeah, there's the time element, there's the action element, and then there's there's a guard mechanic, and a dodge mechanic. The dodge kind of sucks, but the guard mechanic is also good. There's a lot of good things about it, and I think it's great. And any game they go forward with, they need to have this kind of combat with it. I don't know how well it works if you don't have the materia, but they can probably work their way around it. But how did you feel about the materia system?
I was expecting to see some materia come up, but then I thought about it. I'm like, I guess this wouldn't make sense in an action-focused one as opposed to a turn-based one. But other than that, it seemed really spot on with the original.
Yeah, again, I'm very surprised at how well the materia system carries over from what the original felt like. You have the links, you have the links in like the linked materia you can have, and the ways that they kept the original abilities but also added the new ones for the action component. I think it's actually really, really good. And like I said, I don't know in other games if they can have a materia-esque kind of system, but I think the synergy between the combat and the materia system is actually superb, and I'm a big fan of it. However, the best materia comes from possibly one of the stupidest characters, of course. I forget his name, the little white-haired shitbird character.
Oh, yeah.
Clyde, or whatever the fuck his name is.
Something like that.
So stupid. Okay, don't do it. He has callbacks to 15. I've come up with new materia. Immediately, eyes roll to the back of my head. I slouch down at my chair, and I'm like, I become just a pile of fucking disgust out of it. Fucking
callback to 15?
Yes, because Ignis, I've come up with a new recipe. So fucking stupid.
Yeah.
So stupid. Get this guy out of here. Also, how convenient is it that he's like, oh, I work for Shinra, Cloud, but I'm on your team. I want to take them down too. And he just knows that immediately. And it makes sense if you do more stories. It's so stupid. He has an arc through the game. It's just so stupid. So stupid. I wish he wasn't in the game. Or if he was, he could have just been a vending machine, like how you get other materials. It would have been fine. Yeah, so stupid. Okay. I'm not a fan of him. Do you have any feelings on him, one way or the other?
Not really, no. I realized that at first he gives you like a scan materia or whatever, assess materia in this game.
Yeah.
Where you use it on the enemies, and then he's able to make new materia out of that information. And I kind of slacked off on it, and I missed out on probably some cool shit. Like, I never had the opportunity to get Leviathan.
Yes. So you did miss out. The summons are fun to fight and get, but
yeah, like I got Shiva and Fat Chocobo from him, but I don't know what else I missed.
Just Leviathan and Bahamut. Fucking so stupid though. So stupid again. It's like, I've come up with this battle simulation, and you need to wear this VR headset, this HTC Vive or whatever the fuck, to fight them. And you know, I just imagine Cloud in the middle of like this slum thoroughfare, just like swinging his sword around with this dumbass visor on his head. So stupid, man. God, like I get that it's there for the gameplay, and you're not supposed to think that much about it. But I'm just like, this is so fucking stupid. Like, I can't get over it.
That's exactly how I looked at it. I didn't really think into it that much at all. I didn't think Cloud was there swinging his sword and stuff, but that's a funny thought.
And it looks so stupid.
As for him as a character,
oh my god,
he was inoffensive to me. I didn't particularly enjoy him, but I didn't hate him in any way. So.
Maybe it's because I really don't like 15, and like that one line that he gave, I was like, ooh, bad memories. But
yeah, and then I didn't think 15 was a good game really, but it was fine, I guess.
Shit, man. But
I think I also played 15 a lot later than you did, and they probably ironed some stuff out.
Maybe, I don't know. But anyway. And just like the whole virtual spaces that they have throughout the game, I just don't care for it. And I get that it's a way because they can't, with sticking to the story as they are, they can't just be like, they have to have some way for you to get new summon materia, and that's how they do it. And so as a gameplay perspective, it's fine. It's just the way that it's introduced. I'm not a fan of it.
Okay.
Leviathan and Bahamut. I think Bahamut is the hardest fight in the game, especially on hard mode. But you'll get to that. But it is fun to fight those summons. They all have their Fat Chocobo's a bitch though, for sure. He's so easy to fight.
Oh, you thought so?
I think he's easy. Hell yeah.
Oh, you thought he was easy?
Yeah.
Or he was a bitch?
Oh, he's easy.
He
goes down like a bitch.
He is a bitch, not the fight was a bitch. Okay.
No, yeah, he is a bitch. He is the bitch.
Okay.
It is cool that he's in there though, yeah. And like they do like a cool like wide camera swing over every summon or whatever, and for him it's just like it goes from belly up to his dumbass bird face. I thought that was pretty funny. But do you think linking the weapons with abilities is a good aspect of the game, or would you rather have had the abilities be like, I don't know, like an item or something?
I think I'm fine with the way they did it because the abilities were so easy to get. Really, a lot of them you didn't really have to grind it out.
Yeah.
Like there were times where I'd get a weapon and in 30 minutes I'd have the ability, and you keep the ability after you mastered that weapon. So
yeah, I think that's like 9. Like that's a Final Fantasy 9 thing. Sorry, where
no, you're good.
Like whatever. And this is a wonderful aspect. I think it's great too. But I think it comes from Final Fantasy IX that has the same kind of thing where every weapon has its own little ability, and once you master it, you keep it, and you can swap back to different weapons. And what I like about it is that at the end of the game, I have Barret, Tifa, and Cloud all having their original weapons equipped. Like the Buster Sword is the most even keel weapon when you eventually level it up through like in core. They call it like the weapon cores that you can upgrade, and upgrades the weapon with you or whatever. But see, that's what I like about the abilities too, is that I can swap back to the Buster Sword and still keep like triple slash or counter stance or any of those. I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that because I was going to bring it up. Otherwise, that one of my favorite aspects of the game, and mine, like the way I played Cloud, at least. I wish the Buster Sword, just from my attachment to that weapon, was more practical for how I played him. Really, I should have used Hard Edge, just because I was all out, just in your face with Cloud. But even then, I made the sacrifice just because the Buster Sword's so damn cool. And I'm glad it was actually practical the entire game.
Yeah, exactly. And it I didn't have it equipped at the end. I don't remember what I had equipped, but there's like this cool like cutscene with Sephiroth that's like not pre-rendered, but like it's like pre-made or whatever, and he has the Buster Sword equipped, and then like immediately it goes back to in-game, like in-engine, and I don't have it equipped, and it was just really jarring. But if you want the continuity, you can definitely do that and still be viable. So that's great. My one question though is magic too heavily relied upon? You said you were very like up close and personal. Do you feel like you were what is the word? Feel like you were penalized for doing that and not using magic enough?
I guess it depends on how you build your characters. Like Cloud, he had magic, but he wasn't a big magic user for me. Whereas when you have Aerith, naturally she's laying in, she's doing practically all the stunning, and then I jump back to Cloud when he has like certain abilities will do more stun damage. I don't know how people build Tifa, but she usually has a lot of fire magic for me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then there were times, where I'm like, I don't want to use magic here because this enemy's not particularly that difficult. It just takes a lot to stun them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it felt impractical to not use magic at a certain point.
Yeah. And maybe it's me, because they do definitely set Aerith up to be like, I mean, she has an ability that lets her dual cast, which is awesome, but maybe it's me not adding all the magic to her, but I would split like the magic. Like Cloud would have fire and thunder, Tifa would have wind, Barret would have ice, and then I would like swap out whatever I needed to Aerith at whatever moment. And like I only did that because in my mind, if it was just purely turn-based, I would just put all the magic on Aerith. But it's not practical because she's not in the party all the time. And so I felt like, okay, well, most enemies are either weak to fire or thunder, and I almost always have Cloud, so he's going to have those. Occasionally, there will be a wind enemy that I need, and so I'll put that on Tifa. And then, I don't know, I was just like, I need Blizzard somewhere, so I threw it on Barret. So
yeah, exactly. Like, you can't just get by with one person having all the magic, yeah. So I see what you mean there.
Yeah, so I don't know. It makes sense, I suppose, that magic would be kind of like a trump card in these fights, but I don't know. It felt a little bit too reliant on it. Do you feel like you got summons or limits in fight too rarely, or do you feel like you got them enough times that it wasn't too strong, but, you know?
There were a few times, especially with summons, where I felt like it would suggest it to me in odd times. Like maybe one character's health is low, but really I'm doing just fine. The enemy's not a problem. As for limits, I wonder if they work similarly to the ATB gauge, because it felt like the characters I was actively controlling got them a lot more frequently.
Yeah. It's possible. And I mean, I in my mind, I was like, I'm not getting these limits enough. Like, I don't know if I'm killing bosses too quickly, that they're not like charging up fast enough or what. I felt like they were way too rare until I played hard mode and I got certain items that like increased limit gain.
Okay.
And then I feel like it's okay. I'm at the point now where I've basically beaten all the hard things and I'm just going back and cleaning up trophies. And once you defeat like the hardest boss or whatever, they give you a weapon called the Yoder Diamond or some shit like that. I don't know. But what it basically does is that you start every fight with whoever has it equipped starts the fight with a full limit gauge, then it like increasingly like just goes up. And so you can get a limit in a boss fight like 2 or 3 times. And so every boss is a face roll at that point, except for Hell House. Hell House is a piece of shit boss, and I hate him.
He's so spongy.
He's spongy. He does a fuck ton of damage. On hard mode, he summons Tonberries, and this is what I was talking about earlier.
Oh, no.
And if you don't kill those bitches, they'll stun you. They'll insta-kill you if you're up close. They'll insta-kill you if you're far away. They're total assholes, so you have to watch for him to spit them out. As soon as he spits them out, it's like triple slash, and you can kill him kind of quickly. Hard mode Fat Chocobo kind of does the same thing. He'll spawn them, but they aren't as dangerous. But, fuck man, Hell House just is such a piece of shit. He has so many different, like, phases, and it's like if you die, you have to sit through more of those phases every time. Fuck Hell House. It's the worst.
Yeah. I wish Hell House were an optional, like, Coliseum boss fight. Just a fun one, or depending on your definition of fun, I guess. Because I really thought when I first did the Coliseum that, again, Roche was going to make another appearance. But, yeah, on normal, he just felt really spongy. I didn't really have a problem with him, but it took ages. And on hard, it sounds like he's a little more interesting, but yeah, that sounds like a bitch.
Oh yeah, and also at the very end, he summons 2 fucking mechs to fight with him as well. Real dumb. Real dumb. Still not as hard as maybe Bahamut in hard mode, because he summons, guess who? Ifrit to fight alongside him. And it's fucking hell. Literal hell. Anyways. What was your favorite character to play as? What character did you not like to play as? Who did you feel was strong? Who did you feel like was weak? Etc. etc.
I enjoyed playing as all the characters. I know I said Barret was one of my least favorites, sure, but I still enjoyed his gameplay. I found myself having the most fun with Cloud and Tifa though,
Mm.
and I think Tifa is actually the most fun to play as.
In certain situations, I think, yeah.
Yeah, just the way you can combo and like chain her attacks together. I love doing that.
Yeah.
Um,
She's
and
a
Cloud just fits like Cloud's just cool to play as really. Just big ass sword slashing away and all that stuff. Aerith was I like playing as Aerith, especially when you like start realizing how her abilities work in the dual casting,
yeah.
and she's just so useful. I think if I had to pick a least favorite, it would be Barrett. Um, but yeah, it's really dependent on the abilities and like if you get them and how you can chest stack them.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I played as Cloud mostly because I think he again is very well rounded. He has range. He can close distances really great, which I don't like about
Yeah.
Tifa. Tifa is awful at that, and so I didn't care to play as Tifa a lot of the time because if she's too far away from the boss, it's like I have to spend a minute running to the boss.
Yeah.
Barrett, I think, is amazing because range doesn't matter. I think his overcharge ability is so good, so good. I can build Barrett's ATB super fast, and so that's why I like him. Aerith, I think, is kind of weak, even with like her dual cast and her mana stealing and stuff. I feel like she's like a one-trick pony with the Sorceress Storm, and I don't know. I don't know. Overall, I do think probably Cloud is my favorite to play as. They all have their like specialty though, so it's kind of hard to say. Like you were saying with Tifa, on a staggered enemy, Tifa is amazing. Like you build up her unbridled strength up to rise and fall, and you do rise and fall, and then you do I think it's a true punch or something like that.
True strike.
True strike, yeah. And then you do like Omni Strike, and then you do True Strike, and it pumps out a shit ton of damage. It increases the damage bar, damage percentage up, and you do that while Barrett is doing like I don't fucking know I don't know what it is, where he's like just continuously like he's like a turret, and then you do that while Cloud is doing like triple slash or Infinity's End, and I don't know. You can pump out some serious damage, and she's really good like that. But she's a glass cannon. Like I feel like after you do that, she kind of slows down super fast. Like she pumps out a ton of damage at the beginning, and then she's like kind of slows down. But she's good.
Yeah, her whole playstyle is built on buffs and how you can stack the abilities with those like passive abilities more or less and stuff. I don't know. It depends on how you like to play and how much work you want to put in figuring out how everything changes together. But yeah, the true magic is when you get everybody's synergy together, and like you said, you put one person doing this, and then God, it feels so good when you have multiple limit breaks.
Oh yeah,
especially like if the enemy's staggered and everything. Cloud's up there doing cross slash, and Tifa's over here.
yeah, dolphin kick and shit. Fuck, dude, like it really does feel good. I think my first playthrough, I was sticking on one character a lot of the time, just building up their ATB over and over and over again. And then eventually it just like clicks in your mind that it's like, I don't have to be doing that. As I have Cloud doing triple slash, I can switch to Tifa and I can build hers up to do True Strike, and then I can switch over to Barrett and I can use Overload or whatever the fuck. And you know, you swap back and forth between all of them, and it just feels really good. It keeps the pace going really fast. You have the quick, the shortcuts. If you have specific abilities you use a lot, it's just really great, really great. So.
Definitely.
Do you have anything else on that gameplay? The last few are just on the design and visuals and trophies, and then we can be out of here. This is longer than I expected.
Lastly, I wish, I know you don't want to spill all the beans and give put all the cards on the table with limit breaks, but I wish I at least got one more per character.
Yeah, you only got the
Just
two,
for
right?
variety.
2 for each.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 for each? I
Huh?
feel like I had the same limit break the entire game.
Yeah, you get more by doing Coliseum battles. You get extra
Oh,
ones.
maybe that's probably what it is then, because I only did the required Coliseum battles.
Yeah, you can do more.
Okay.
So, yeah. So go ahead and do that. You have a lot to look forward to, my friend.
And then, yeah, real quick, sorry, I'm stoked to play on hard mode because overall this game felt really easy. And that's
Well,
all.
you will feel differently after hard mode. It does kick your ass. Hell House was one of the few times in a single player game where I'm like on the brink of fucking murdering somebody because of how mad I am at how bullshit it is. Those Tonberries are a-holes. But so just quickly, the design and the visuals. I feel like there was more love put on like plate when you're in the plate than there was when you're in the slums. The slums felt very just put together. They're like, oh, we'll just throw a bunch of shit here and we'll make it a pathway. And I don't know. It just kind of seemed bland.
I could tell when I was in different sectors. I mean, apart from Wall Market, which I think was pretty good.
Yeah.
Like in the more slummy areas, I could tell which sector I was in, but it all felt really samey.
Yeah. When you're running between sectors, it's just like it's like a pathway with just junk around it, and I don't know, just junk rearranged in different manners. It didn't look great.
Yeah, and then there's like an actual junkyard garbage dump area, which really just feels the exact same as those pathways, just a big area of it. I don't know.
A big area of junk rather than a hallway, yeah. So the anytime you're up on the plate, it looks a lot better than it does in the slums. And I think that was maybe their quick way of being like, oh, it's the slums, it's fine, nobody cares if it looks like trash. But I know a lot of people have complained about like doors, like certain doors looking really, really, really bad compared to the rest of it.
A lot of people are complaining about textures, which if you look at the textures on a lot of things, it's like, yeah, you could tell they skimped here, but half the time I'm not sitting there pixel peeping, so.
Yeah. Was the lip sync too bad for you at times? I almost considered switching the voice acting to Japanese because I can't stand it being so bad at times, but.
I never thought it was atrocious, but yeah, there were a handful of times where I noticed, and I'm like, yeah, this is way off.
Yeah. That's a common thing, I think, with Japanese games that are localized for English, but I don't know. I wanted to play... the voice acting in Final Fantasy 15 was really bad and really awkward, and so I was expecting that to be the same case with this, but the voice acting was actually pretty good for the most part, so I kept it on English even though the lip sync was a little weird.
Yeah, I really enjoyed all the voice actors in this, really.
Yeah,
I feel like they all... Go ahead.
Oh. I was just going to say, I think Barrett might have been a little bit... It took me a little while to get on his liking him. I think for a while I was thinking he's kind of bad, but it grows on you, and I think the voice actor did him justice in the end.
Yeah. The only one I was kind of taken back by was Sephiroth himself, which the voice actor did fine and everything, and I was on board. Like, a lot of people were they're like, why didn't you recast all the people that have voiced these characters before? And I was on board with the new people. I'm like, yeah, they all sound fine. I don't have an issue with it. But I feel like Sephiroth was just so well done. He's the only one I fall on the other side of the camp, like the guy who did him in Advent Children and probably like the Dissidia games and stuff.
And you wanted him in this game?
Yeah, that's a deep, menacing voice that going to this one was a little jarring. I don't know. But yeah, he still did a good job.
Yeah, he's fine, but I think I'm the same way. I think I could get over the hump of learning a new voice for all these characters, but Sephiroth was the hardest to do, for sure. My last question for design and visuals is, do you feel like the music at certain times was a little too techno-y? You know, and usually I don't mind techno-y game music, but at a certain point, like in my mind I have when Tifa and Aerith are going to rescue Cloud from Don Corneo. There's like this little cute little techno-y beat that's doo-doo-doo-doo. I don't know. Anyway, but I just was kind of like, this kind of feels weird. It feels wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. My biggest standout is more so when you're heading between Sector 5 and Sector 7, like that whole Sector 6 pathway with like the arms, the robot arms and everything.
Yeah.
It still fit with the game, but it was a little more techno dancey than I would have expected.
Yeah. I liked that.
I think the music overall in this game was great, and it's a lot of remixes of like classic tracks, so you're not hearing the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
I enjoy.
Yeah, I think the music was great too, but there was times where I was like, well, this feels a little weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. Go back and play Don Corneo's Mansion, and then listen for that point immediately after Aerith and Tifa take out the goons and are going to go rescue Cloud, and you'll see what I mean when I say that it's like weird, really, really poppy, techno-y music just doesn't fit. So yeah, that's all I have. The last thing I have is just trophies. Any trophy talk you want to have. The only thing I really have is like hard mode is a good. I was talking on Doom Eternal how like the was it Doom Eternal? No, it wasn't Doom Eternal. I was talking on the Twin Breaker episode how the New Game Plus was just really bad and it wasn't really thought through. The New Game Plus / hard mode in this is good design, but the trophy for it is fucking awful because it makes you play the game all over again. And the game is long, even when you're like skipping cutscenes, and it just takes for fucking ever. So I don't know. The platinum trophy is not necessarily easy to get or hard to get. It just takes a long fucking time. But at least hard mode is fun and it switches up the gameplay. And so when you're actually
I'm not too put off by time-consuming trophies as long as they're interesting in a way. So, I don't know how much I enjoyed the combat of this game. I don't know how much of it is like little intricacies, little hidden shit that you get trophies for. But, I don't know, I'm stoked to do it again, but I haven't taken a good look at the trophy list again since I beat it.
Yeah. Yeah, the trophy list is just very tedious, but the gameplay is fun, and I think hard mode is actually a really good game mode, and it's fun to play it, even though it can be maddening when you're fighting Bahamut or Hell House or Abzu. Even was a little bit of a troublemaker there for a while, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So, if you're looking for a time killer during this episode, I mean, this episode's long enough that you can get probably quite a few trophies.
Yeah, I know. I realized how long we were going, and usually I try and think like, yeah, we should shorten it. But this one, I'm pretty sure you and I would have had a grand long talk about this off the podcast anyway. So
yeah,
this is one I'm giving a pass to. This one had to go long.
Yeah. I don't know. I was thinking, yeah, we can maybe do it in like an hour and a half. I don't know. I'm always so wrong about that, though. I just didn't expect it to go almost 3 hours. So,
Yeah,
2.5, I guess. But all right. Well, this has been episode 61 of Vice of Life. So, if you want more stuff like this, I guess go over to patreon.com/Vice of Life.
They don't always go this long.
No, they don't go this long, and I feel like our Doom Eternal one wasn't quite as in-depth and good discussion as this one was. But, those of you who care about this, thank you guys for listening up until this point. As you guys can tell, we're passionate about this game, and we can't wait for the next one. So, all right. Anything else, Eloy, before we go?
No, I just said if you haven't given it a shot, which I'm not sure why you'd be listening, do it.
Yes, sir.
Do it.
Yeah, I think it's worth the $60. It definitely kills enough time. I'm at about 70 hours, and I'll probably platinum it within the next 10. So go ahead and get it wherever you get your games. And I guess we'll see you guys next week for episode 62 of Vice of Life. Things might be a little bit different again for episode 62, but we'll see how it goes. All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Vice of Life. Feel free to get in touch with us on Instagram and Twitter at Vice of Life Pod. Our new YouTube channel at Vice of Life. Patreon, you can check us out, and it's just Vice of Life on there. Email us at viceoflifepodcast@gmail.com, and leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever else you listen. And just make sure to subscribe to the show for more.